Hi everybody, I thought I'd walk you through some of the basics for the UDL lesson plan revision. I'm in Blackboard right now looking at the assignment that's in Module 9. And the first thing you need to note is that this lesson plan revision can be done with a peer. So if you'd like to work with a colleague, that is absolutely fine. You'll just need to make sure of two things. One, that you all note kind of how you worked together. If one person did one part, one person did another, please note that. And both of you need to upload all the pieces for the lesson plan revision, a complete assignment in your own assignment and Blackboard. So everybody will have something uploaded and it should be the complete assignment, including the scoring guide. So I think the easiest thing to do is to walk you through a sample that's been completed. So I'm going to show you the pieces that were uploaded with this assignment, and then we'll walk through what each one is. So the first piece that you all will open up is this UDL lesson plan revision directions, and it gives you some really good reminders about what UDL is, focusing on the fact that UDL looks at three specific areas: how we as a teacher teach, how we have the students engage in their learning, so what they're actually doing to learn. So if you're doing a math lesson and students are engaging using manipulatives, and they're doing a computer game and they're doing some activities, that's how they're engaging in the learning, and then how students are assessed. And as we talked about at the very beginning of the semester, Universal Design for Learning is all about choices. So I've got that highlighted here. You want to have choices in how students work. So I want you to think about centers and center activities, but note that it is not something where people should be forced to go through every center. They should be choices. So if a student learns best on a computer or learns best through manipulatives, that they can spend more time in those centers. They're not rushing from activity to activity. And we need to make sure that we're giving multiple ways. So we're not just standing up in front of students talking, but we're using some visuals, we're using examples, we're tying things to real world content. We have a video we're showing. We include some graphic organizers, multiple ways to teach. You need multiple ways that students have access to engage in the learning, so they're not just using one text, but they're using a variety of texts. And the texts aren't all print, but maybe they could watch a short video, they could listen to a text. That would all be choices that they would have. And that students are assessed in a variety of ways. So if you're thinking about a menu board of assessments, students could either complete a multiple choice and short answer test, they could make a collage, they could record a video, they could create a play. Any of those things are choices that students should have in a UDL designed lesson. UDL is not just about students with disabilities. Remember that when we watched the UDL video, UDL originally was designed so that people who used wheelchairs to get into buildings had access, but we know that people who use wheelchairs are not the only ones who use curb cuts or ramps. Those are useful for all of us, whether you're pulling a suitcase behind you, whether you've got a briefcase on wheels, you're using a stroller, kids with skateboards, all use curb cuts and all use ramps, so they are useful for everyone. It's the same with universally designed for learning lessons. Everybody should have access and the same choices throughout the lesson. Within that lesson choices, you need to have technology, and I've given you some examples of some of the ones we've seen in class, some of my favorite choices for websites and apps. You need to include some technology in your lesson. PowerPoint does not count as technology, and make sure it's live and real technology. You also want to make sure that your lesson plan has what I call magic and mystery. So something exciting within that lesson. You also want to activate prior knowledge, and you want to help students understand the why of learning, how this learning can be used, what's the context of this learning, so that students are interested in engaging and have a way of managing that information so that they can put it contextually in the right spots in their brains. Some things that you might want to consider when you're looking at student choices is looking at multiple intelligences theory. That really helps as we try and make sure we're meeting the needs of all students. And we also need to think through that scaffolding and differentiation process. I've given you a pretty thorough list in your lesson plans that deals with how we can support students who have sensory differences, physical differences, learning differences, cognitive and behavior differences. And if you're stuck and you cannot figure out what you need to do, please, please, please go back to the IEP handbook and guiding documents for suggestions. Look at those tables that are scattered throughout the Kentucky IEP handbook that says if I have a student with a specific learning disability, here's a specially designed instruction and supplementary aids and services I might include. Incorporate some of those in your lesson. I am not asking you to look at specific students with disabilities, but rather I'm asking you to more holistically think of these categories, and if I have a student with any of these 5 categories of need, how can I meet those needs, knowing that in the universally designed lessons, a modification I make for a student with a cognitive disability might be equally useful for a student who's not identified with any disability at all. So think in general terms, the areas of needs for students with these general categories and what you can do to support their learning and the learning of everyone in the classroom. So in this lesson plan, you're going to turn in the following. You need to find either a lesson plan you have written or a lesson plan you found, a lesson plan a peer has written, but you need an original source lesson plan. And by original source lesson plan, I just mean you need a lesson plan as the foundation of what you're doing here. The reason for that is this: often when we're collaborating with other teachers, they'll say, hey, I'm going to teach this lesson on the water cycle, and I'm not sure how to include a student with a disability. So often when I'm doing a UDL review of a lesson, I'm looking at some foundational lesson already. I'm not usually always starting a lesson from scratch. So we're going to start with a foundation lesson, something you've got at hand or that you found in the internet. You can go to Teachers Pay Teachers. You can just do a Google search. Scholastic has lesson plans. You can pull, but find a lesson plan somewhere. I want you to make sure that you're identifying who wrote that lesson plan, and it could be you, it could be a peer, that's absolutely fine, but you want to attach that lesson plan. And you can either put it at the end of your analysis or you can attach it separately. You have to complete the UDL analysis and scoring guide, and this one is different than the other scoring guides you've done for me where you just fill in point values. You're actually writing in this scoring guide and filling in the information, and I'll demonstrate what that looks like. And make sure that when you turn in your lesson plans, even if you work with a peer, turn in all the pieces: the original lesson plan, the UDL analysis and scoring guide, and then any additional supplements that you find that you would include in this lesson plan. Okay, so what does this look like? Hang on and I will show you. All right, so here's a sample scoring guide that's been completed. So this student went in the section 1 introduction, which is worth 3 points, and you'll note she did fill out the number of points, but she also added in the information: who originally wrote the lesson plan. There were names there originally. They said where they got this lesson from. They went to Teachers Pay Teachers and they got it from Kelly Sanford. She was the original author. They talk about the clear learning target, and I would love for you to take this learning target and turn it into the I can statements. So I can relate personal experiences would be a stronger, clear target than the one listed there. And then you want to align to Common Core, which they have done right here. So you're going to list the Common Core. And then if you've given all that information, then please give yourself all the points. In section 2, we're looking at the teacher's role and how you can represent information in the lesson. So note that in the original scoring guide, it has blanks and the student has filled in the multiple ways that this lesson is going to have ways to teach content. They're going to have a video, instructional scaffolding, visual aids, graphic organizers, and manipulatives. A variety of technology. They're using a video on YouTube. They're going to use an Elmo camera to show students how to work. It would be awesome if they went ahead and used EduCreations to demonstrate the text, do something cool here. They said magic and mystery is going to be done through the video that students are showing. And note that they didn't just say they were going to show a video, they gave me the specific link. I check all these links to make sure your link works, and please include it. Don't just say random video. That isn't specific enough, and that just says to me you're guessing. How this lesson is going to activate prior knowledge, they add information there. So in each section, I'm expecting you to share details of how you are addressing this section. I'm expecting you to fill in answers to each section. Please don't leave these blank. So how is this lesson going to meet the sensory needs of a student with a disability? SWD is student with a disability. And this lesson plan writer says they're going to modify the video for a student with visual impairments by altering the brightness of the video. Another thing that I would do for a student with sensory needs is offer different types of paper and writing utensils, because this can often be a sensory issue. Change lighting as needed. Some students are really, and the noise level in the classroom as needed. Some students are very much irritated by bright lights. They have trouble concentrating if the noise is too loud. So as you head through these sections, make sure you fill in how you're going to modify that. Again, don't leave any of those blank. And then in section 3, same exact thing. For each prompt, I want you to think through and address how you would make changes in the lesson plan, or if it was already in the lesson plan to begin with. Students should have choices in how they learn. Well, if the lesson plan that you have already has students participating in 5 centers and students can choose 3, then it's already there. So what you need to do is state that students have a choice of 3 centers out of 5, and in these centers they could do X, Y, and Z. So add content. In the assessment section, again, there's choices in how students engage. I want to see choices in how students are assessed, and be creative here. This is your demonstration of understanding the content. So don't wimp out by the time you get to section 4. Share with me all the different ways students can participate, and if you run out of ideas, go back to the original document so that you can get some ideas about multiple intelligences and supporting students with disabilities. All right, so we've got our sample UDL analysis. I'm going to save that puppy. And then the other documents the student turned in, they said that they would offer a self-check behavior checklist meter for students. So they attached that as part of their lesson. And they also had the sample documents that came from Teachers Pay Teachers, and they included that original document. So this is what I'm expecting you to, this is the level of expertise and quality I'm expecting to see. Working with a partner, you should be able to pull resources and really make sure that you're able to fill in each area. If you don't want to work with a partner, you are absolutely free to do that. This is what the original document looks like when you open it in Blackboard, and it's got the blanks. And note that you're just supposed to type in here, lesson meets sensory needs of students. Yes, I have choices of paper, lighting can be dimmed, fill in each area one by one, and then you'll submit that completed UDL analysis and scoring guide. If you have any other questions, please let me know. Don't save those changes. I'm happy to help. If you run into any challenges, please give me a holler, but I'm sure you guys will do a fantastic job. Using the scoring guide will really help you make sure you address all areas. And if you get stuck and don't have a lesson plan that you really like, you're welcome to use a lesson plan you've already written for this class, or go ahead and write one and then do the analysis to see if you're meeting the criteria of the rubric. All right, enjoy.